Hello, I'm Dosajna, certified astrologer, and this is the astrology for Venus ingressing into Capricorn on Friday, November 5th, 2021. This will occur on the Pacific Coast at 3:44 a.m. and on the East Coast at 6:44 a.m. This chart is set to 10:46 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time at Greenwich, England. The house division is whole house system. Because we are dealing with an event that happens to everyone around the world simultaneously, house division is not important. What is important is how the planets are interacting with one another via aspects and their overall planetary condition. So today we have a lot to unpack, actually, of a lot going on. Not only do we have Venus ingressing into Capricorn today, 12 hours later, we have Mercury ingressing into Scorpio. Not only that, in a couple of months in December, this is the sign in which Venus is going to go retrograde. So in many respects, this is the first chapter of that developing story. Kind of like what I was saying all the way back in October, things are unsteady, especially our relationships with each other, because we're having issues within our relationship within ourselves. Now things are going to become more apparent and a little bit more unavoidable. So just a couple of things I wanted to bring up today. First off, we do have two ingresses today. Remember, we have Venus going into Capricorn, and then later on we're going to have Mercury going into Scorpio. Now, there are some advantages of Venus in Capricorn. There are some disadvantages. Some advantages are, this is a great time to dedicate yourself fully to your relationships. Just remember, if you say, till death do you part, and I do, just be sure that you really, really mean it. That is why it's good to just to wait until in 2022, if you're going to make any very serious dedications to your relationships. Wait until after the retrograde, but nevertheless, this is a great time to get really serious in your relationships. On the downside, Saturn's going to be, because Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, this is a time where your relationships are going to get very real. The weaknesses in all of your relationships, not only romantic but platonic and career, all of the faults and the kinks in the armor in these relationships are going to become very apparent during this time, and it's going to be up to the retrograde in you to evaluate them and determine, are these worth salvaging or do I need to walk away? Now, because Venus is going to have her retrograde in Capricorn, she's actually going to be in this sign for a very long time. She's going to be in it from November 5th, 2021 all the way through March 6, 2022. So she is in this for a very, very long time. We can expect this energy to be pertinent for a long time. So it is very important to look at now and see what's all at play, what aspects are involved, etc., because this will be all relevant for that whole window of time. Now, this will be covered more in a later video when we get to the actual Venus retrograde, but I just want to mention it now. She will be approaching her Shadow 1 period of that retrograde on November 18th. So just keep in mind that this is when the Venus retrograde energy will start to really begin. Again, I'll get into that more during the Venus retrograde video later on. But in any case, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Let's take a look and figure out how we reached our conclusions. So the first thing I want to look at is the overall planetary conditions and see if there are any dignities and debilities. And unfortunately, again, we see Mars in Scorpio. And remember, we see the moon in Scorpio, and the moon does not like to be in Scorpio. She is in her fall there. Remember last time when she was in Scorpio, I talked a lot about inner instability. We're not feeling grounded within ourselves, so we're lashing out. All this means that now this is bleeding into our personal relationships. We're being very self-destructive in our own one-to-one relationships. We're lashing out to the people that are closest to us. So we really need to watch out for that. Again, like it has been in the other couple of videos, Mars is in his sign of rulership being in Scorpio, and Saturn is also in his sign of rulership being in Aquarius. Now remember, just because they are in their sign of rulership and that makes them stronger doesn't necessarily mean they are working for our benefit or working for us. It just means that the energies that they are working with are more harmonious for them, not necessarily for us. So that's the overall condition of the planet, something that we need to keep in mind. Let's now look at our elements and modalities and see if we have any imbalances there. Let's start with our cardinal energy. I count 2 in cardinal, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in fixed, and 1 immutable. So this lack of mutability makes a lot of sense, right? It's easy to initiate conflict, it's easy to break the bridges, but we're having a really hard time mending the bridges, concluding things. The air is just staying tense, the fog of conflict is still in the air, and that's because we have so much fixed energy right now. People are being stubborn, people are saying, no, I'm right, you're wrong, end of story. And because everyone is feeling that way, things are just going to break apart continually, people are going to separate more, and people are going to be unable to mend that gap that they have been broken because people are just being too prideful. To reiterate this, the problem is that we have no fire. We have absolutely no fire. We're lacking initiation, we're lacking objectivity and what is truly right, our sense of righteousness and justice. It's just not there. Let's see, we have 3 in air, 3 in earth, and 4 in water. So again, we're still water heavy, very subjective, very emotional, and that's where our lashing out comes through. We're being subjective, we're being emotional, we're being self-destructive, and now that's bleeding into our personal relationships. And because we lack that fire and we lack that mutability, we don't conclude, we don't resolve. It just hangs in the air, and that tension just builds and builds and builds, and will continue to until we are out of this retrograde, which doesn't happen until next year, unfortunately. But this is all part of the end of 2021. We are having a very serious reevaluation of our relationships and how we are these solid or are they not solid? This is the time to figure all that out. So now we're going to look at our aspects and see what's in play here. Remember, because we are dealing with the whole house house division here, ascendant and midheaven do not matter. So I'm only going to look at aspects with the sun through Pluto. Remember, we only look at applying aspects in these kind of charts. Those are aspects that are approaching, they have yet to occur, so they're still developing, they're still building. So I have my highlighter here. I'm going to now find every major aspect with an A because those are relevant aspects. And then we're just going to break them down a little bit more, see what is relevant, what's not relevant here. Great, so it looks like I have them all down. Now again, we can eliminate some of these right off the bat just because of the orb. Now in the classical sense, 3 degrees or lower take the highest priority. So I can say this 10 is, way too big. This 7 is way too big. 9 also too wide. 8 way too wide. 5, these 5s as well. So that did narrow down the playing field a bit. And again, these aspects that are remaining can still be prioritized as primary and secondary. So let's take a look at the primary aspects. Now this one is right here, this 1 degree orb is a little contradictory because it is a primary aspect, but I would consider it honestly primary secondary, and this is why. We have Mercury in Libra sextiling Venus in Capricorn at 1 degree. Now, if you recall, Libra and Capricorn usually make a square, they don't make a sextile. But because Mercury is here at a later degree in Libra and Venus is at an early degree of Capricorn, they're still 60 degrees apart, which makes the sextile. However, because they are occurring in signs that don't normally make a sextile, it is weakened. So I kind of put it in this area between primary and secondary. Let's look at other important aspects. Definitely right here, this 2 between the moon and Jupiter, this is very important and part of the problem. We have the moon in Scorpio squaring Jupiter in Aquarius at a tight orb of 2. We're starting to get so self-destructive right now that we're pushing our friends away, our social circles away. A lot of friend drama right now. The people that should be our closest to us, we're turning into our enemies, so this is not good. But the good news is there is a solution to that. And we will get into that. However, there are a couple more aspects we need to consider. One of them also involves Mars and Saturn. We have Mars in Scorpio squaring Saturn in Aquarius at a tight orb of 3 degrees. This is, I would say, again, kind of like I was saying back in October, we're getting a lot of dead ends, a lot of just no's, a lot of brick walls. This will continue, but this also tells me just watch out for sketchy areas, sketchy people. Don't go looking for trouble, run-ins with the law, white-collar crime, blue-collar crime, etc., etc. If you're looking for trouble, you will find trouble right now. And that Mars square Saturn kind of emphasizes that. Great. Now, the next thing I want to look at is actually the answer to all of our problems, believe it or not. It involves the sextile between the Moon and Pluto. We have the Moon in Scorpio sextiling Pluto in Capricorn at 3 degrees. This is the answer right here. We have the Mars and Pluto, the Moon and Pluto working together with that personal self-transformation. If we are able to look inwardly and introspect, we're going to find a lot of great nuggets of information that's going to help us move on. It's going to help us swallow our pride, break down our ego a bit so we can have healthy ego death. The catch is that, number one, because it is a sextile, we have to put in the initiation ourselves. We have to put in the work ourselves, but because we're lacking fire, this makes this very hard. Also, we also just have a lot of energy that's fighting against this. We have this aspect, the Moon square Jupiter, we have the Mars square Saturn fighting against this sextile. So it is a lot harder to bring out this energy, but if you put in that work, you will find a lot of solutions inwardly right now. This is just the time to turn in and to recognize that this is the time to turn in. Great. And the last aspect I want to mention, which is kind of secondary, involves Venus and Mars. We have Venus in Capricorn sextiling Mars in Scorpio. And just because the orb is just a little too wide at 4 degrees, it is secondary. But I guess this is kind of saying, you know, if your relationship is going well, you might be able to get a little good sexual gratification if your relationship is going well. If it is not going well, I would say be very cautious of sexual encounters right now, especially with your love life. A lot of sexual tension. It helps to exacerbate the tension we are now feeling. However, if you are very solid and you're having very intense sexual relationships right now, I would say that they would be beneficial if the relationship overall is very positive. But more likely than not, it is not. So let's take a look at our chart here. Let's take a look at these aspects in play, because now that we distill the chart a little bit more, let's take a look. First, let's take a look at these primary aspects here that we're dealing with. Again, very, very detrimental. We have the Mars in Scorpio, we have the Jupiter in Aquarius, and we have this tight square. This is where we're starting to get very self-destructive with our friends, our close relationships. We're starting to push the closest people away more, and this is not good. We're being emotional, we're being subjective, and we're lashing out inappropriately. The other one we have to watch out for is the Mars in Scorpio and the Saturn in Aquarius squaring one another. Again, watch out for sketchy areas, sketchy people, run-ins with the law. Don't go looking for trouble, because trouble will find you. Now, the solution to all this, like I said, involves the Moon in Scorpio with the Pluto in Capricorn sextiling one another. This is where we get personal transformation, but we have to take in the initiation ourselves. We have to put in the work. But if we do, Pluto will help us to break down that stubborn internal Moon in Scorpio that is making us stubborn. It's making us lash out. Pluto, if we allow it, he will help us to ease these erratic energies a bit more by helping you realize, hey, you know, look at this. This is something that you can do to help with that. Things that you are doing wrong to help with that. Now, one that is kind of secondary, primary, you know, kind of in the middle of the two, involves Mercury in Libra and Venus in Capricorn. Now, even though that is a sextile, remember they are in signs that don't normally make a sextile, so this is a little rough, a little weakened by that. Nevertheless, I would say that communication can be a little bit helpful if you allow it to be, but more likely than not, people just don't want to talk to one another. They just want to lash out. And secondarily, a secondary aspect we have here involves Venus in Sag and Mars in Scorpio making a sextile. This is more of a true sextile, because normally Capricorn and Scorpio do make a sextile naturally. But because the orb is 4 degrees, it is a little weakened. But like I said, this could indicate that if you have a very solid romantic relationship right now, your sexual encounters could be very strong, could be very impactful. But overall, we are having a lot of issues here. We're lashing out, we're being self-destructive, we're pushing our friends away, our close friendships away. We're not seeing eye to eye, we are attracting negative people, more self-destructive people, more sketchy people. Watch out for that. Work eternally, don't lash out. And work through that inner tension. Don't project it outwardly. That's about it for this. There will be another video involving the Mercury ingress that happens today on the same day. Don't forget, we have the full moon mid-November, and late November we have 2 more ingresses. And that's about it for this video and this event. I wish you the best of luck on your astrological journey. Stay tuned for that Mercury video. And until next time, namaste.